Hello, and welcome to the topic, the purpose of design systems. I want to talk a little bit about what the purpose of design systems are and how we can address them. So the first one is fragmentation. If you start out at a small startup, what you'll notice is that when you first begin building products, you'll start very essentialist with the core elements needed to build your product. But over time, as your organization scales, or maybe even your product portfolio starts to scale, you'll reach a point where you look across the scope and plane of your work and you see high points and low points. You see a lot of inconsistencies. And this is called fragmentation. I tend to think about it as design fragmentation or pattern fragmentation if we're talking about design and code differences. And really the issue is as you build multiple products, your ideas start to evolve. As you go through brand refreshes as a company, the language that you use, the colors, the type, the design of the buttons, the inputs, other larger patterns starts to shift and change. And even when branding aesthetic is updated, if it's not updated across the entire product, what can happen is you get into this issue of fragmentation. And it gets worse and worse the more that you scale. And so a lot of companies will reach a breaking point, or maybe you're a digital agency or a solopreneur where you say, you know what, let me go back to see the place where I lost my way, and that way I can move forward more efficiently. It seems like you're stopping or slowing down, but you're really slowing down to speed up. And that's what's necessary. So we can look at this from different perspectives, and it's important to think about the perspectives of people across the company, not just how you see the tools that you use to build digital products, and tools like Figma, or maybe you're in React or coding, full stack, right? You're working on a team and you're thinking about the design system from maybe a design perspective, but other people look at it from maybe an accessibility viewpoint, maybe a usability, data research, UXR perspective, and maybe they're looking at the copywriting, the content design, many different perspectives. So it's important to think about fragmentation is not just what it looks like, but it's the experience that's had. And then we can think about the other big way that reducing fragmentation helps a company is it kind of provides a level playing field. If you have a lot of growth in the company, they're hiring a lot of people, or you have new folks that might be more associate or junior, and they're trying to create a consistent product along with folks that maybe have been in the team for a long time, it's important to have an idea of what the style is, what the brand is, what the components and the foundations or design tokens are that you're going to use as a company. And really a design system can help level up a more associate or junior designer to be able to design at a level that compares with maybe a more senior individual. So that's another big advantage. Now, say you have found fragmentation, you have 13 different buttons, or you have several shades of the company brand color, and you want to correct them. What's the first step of building a design system? Well, it's taking an audit and looking across all the different aspects, from branding to components to patterns. Patterns might be larger things that take the full width or height of a screen, such as a header or a sidebar. They might be multi-screen, such as like a SMS or email verification process, where you're typing in a code and then it's processing and then it's telling you if it failed or succeeded. That's a pattern, right? A component, those are smaller elements, things like buttons and input forms and things like that. And so taking that audit, looking across all of these different areas. And the way I think about this is, again, you want to look at it from multiple different perspectives. From the perspective of accessibility, how does this component or this pattern, I just call them elements because that's kind of a universal way to talk about different ways to design things. You could look at the accessibility. Maybe pull to refresh is not that great. Maybe load more is better because it's a button and so it has better ARIA tag support. These are obviously just thrown in examples, but you could provide like a star rating system and have the team go through, hey, we have all these different ways to organize content and information when users are looking for either more content or more specific content? Do we need all these patterns? How can we compare them? What about performance? Do they load fast? Are they easy to develop? Are they flexible? Could they work across mobile and desktop? How is their platform alignment looking? And then usage, right? Are you already using this very heavily in development and you're getting great user feedback? Well, why would you maybe risk switching to another pattern without doing a lot of really in-depth testing and kind of waiting away from introducing something new if there's already something established that's a core part of the product, right? That's something that would need to be carefully considered. And then providing links, and these might be repo, they're a coded pattern in like a component library, or maybe they're a Figma link to a designed component, right, with state and different variants. Or maybe it's just a sticker sheet, it's just an idea, or you have a concept, maybe an interactive clickable prototype. Having a link to get to all these resources quickly and easily can help you articulate these design decisions of why we're selecting these individual elements within the design system and choosing them over maybe others. Now, the second purpose of a design system is to mirror. Well, to mirror what? A mirror provides a reflection, and a good mirror provides an accurate reflection, meaning it doesn't warp the perspective. Well, what kind of perspective do we want to align or be accurate and mirror each other? Well, for one, design and development, right? These are two kind of core concepts, and there's a lot of other cross-functional team members that come into play. But to make sure that what's being designed is what's being developed, that's really important to be mirrored, and to kind of align those two different reflections of the same idea, to make sure that that button has the same props as it has variants in Figma, that there's good alignment there. And that provides kind of a shared language that allows deeper collaboration, which is ultimately what we want. And then there's another reflection. We think about, the corporate side of things, internal to the company. What is our alignment? What is our direction? Where are we driving? How do we think the product interacts? And then, of course, the whole point of user experience is, what about the consumers? What about our users? What about our people that we care so much about that use our product every day? How do they see the experience? How do they interact with these patterns? Are there components that could serve them better? Could we reduce the amount of complexity so that they could memorize and use less, very, very precious attention as a resource, right? How do they get through this flow and provide this job to be done successfully, providing that delightful experience in a way that they want to come back to that product and not be frustrated and perhaps switch to another competing product. Okay, now another element is we want to do more, but we're in an environment where we may have less resources, less allocated engineers, less allocated content designers, UXR, data science. And a design system, it allows us to do more with less. There's a lot of research and data. You can go look it up. designsystem.com has some great articles where they talk about case studies, how a team that's half the size did 4 times the work and at a higher level of quality and consistency. We know that's why we slow down, because there's that ability to speed up at the end once we've aligned these components, patterns. We're all using a shared language. We're mirroring design development inside the company's point of view with the external experience of our users. And that's really, really powerful. We're going to come back to that in a little bit and talk about force multiplication, which is, the idea that we as systems designers, down kind of the flow of the, project progress, can really force multiply the rest of the designers to work at a higher level and greater ability. The third purpose of a design system is workflow enhancement. So obviously we're working in companies that are moving incredibly fast. Economic times are not always guaranteed. We don't know what's coming around the next corner. There could be a alignment of how customers work with our products. We could maybe, you're an agency, you might lose one of your top customers. So the ability to move quickly and adjust to a changing industry or environment is really, really important. And we want to improve the workflow. We want it to be as streamlined and smooth of a process as possible. And that's not just for design. Obviously, that's for design, that's for the testing process, that's for engineering. And so once you have a solidified set of a brand, that's a style guide that usually comes from the marketing or communications department, that comes in and becomes design tokens. Design tokens paint or style, or you could think of it as theming, those core componentry that are the most essential building blocks of all of your products. And those can be scaffolded together to create more complex solutions, which are called patterns. Those patterns are laid out into templates. Templates are kind of starting points for different surfaces on a product, and ultimately that becomes a route, a screen, a page, a part of the UI that gets shipped out and people use it. And we want every step on that process to be as streamlined and smooth as possible. The first step is aligning design. What do we think? How do we balance accessibility, performance, conversion, all of these different metrics, provide solutions that are really tight, and then how do we ensure that through the development process they get produced accurately and flexibly and powerfully in a way that's easy to theme, it's easy to adjust internationalization and localization, things like that. So that's all a workflow enhancement. If it's done correctly, should be able to work anywhere from 30% to maybe 500% more productively with these tools in place, because you're not designing from scratch, you're not developing from scratch. You're retheming, you're applying patterns that are proven, you're testing those assumptions to see if you can get better conversion, better user experience, better accessibility along that path. And then ultimately it's about not inspiration or creativity or creation, but it's actually about curation. It's about taste. It's about being a steward of that user experience that you're responsible for ultimately as a systems individual. And so we talked a little bit about force multiplication. I looked at the Wikipedia definition. It's interesting. It's from more of like a military perspective. So I thought, coming from design, it needs to be tweaked a bit. So I put a bit of spin on this, but it's ultimately the same concept. And so what I came away with was definition for force multiplication in a design system context is a combination of factors that provide groups, we can think about teams, right, or products or companies, with the ability to accomplish much greater amplified feats than would be possible without it. And ultimately that's what a design system does. It allows you to ship your product faster, get it to the customer, speed to market, in a way that provides delight to users and doesn't sap their attention, so they can focus on what's important about your product, and ultimately you can save time to craft what really matters and is unique about your project, your product, your company, right, ultimately. So in summary, the three purposes of a design system are: number one, to prevent double work and design fragmentation at scale. Number two, to mirror design and development solutions to allow a shared language so that you can collaborate more deeply. And then number three, to massively streamline the design workflow, consistency and speed to production. So I hope this has been helpful. If you're interested in building a design system, we have products related to design systems that can help provide that kind of step up, that easy button, that acceleration, and that's at pegasusdesignsystem.com. We're going to continue to create content here on YouTube, but we also have a blog where we write longer, more in-depth articles about topics such as design and design systems. I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.